we turn this question to you. You're reading through this. What is Congress going to do tomorrow after this bombshell just dropped?
It's really funny that you say that, Stephanie, because actually tomorrow, the House of Representatives is slated to pass the massive omnibus government funding bill to keep the government open. And tucked inside that bill is a reform to the Electoral Count Act of 1887 that would spell out and make very clear that the vice president does not have the authority single-handedly, unilaterally to pick a president, as Donald Trump and many of his allies tried to argue that Vice President Pence did on January 6, 2021. And so Congress is taking this step forward. It was a bill that was negotiated by a Republican, Susan Collins of Maine. There are a number of other recommendations at the end of this report. Specifically, the January 6th committee is urging congressional committees to examine whether to create a formal mechanism to evaluate whether to bar Donald Trump and other individuals identified in this report from holding future office under the 14th Amendment. There is a recommendation directed towards federal agencies to undertake a whole of government strategy to combat violent extremism, including some of the activity that we've seen from white nationalists in recent years. And finally, there is an effort to designate January 6th as the January 6th certification of presidential elections as a national special security event, which would elevate that event in the future every 4 years and require federal law enforcement agencies to speak to one another, to communicate and to come up with a security plan for future January 6th events. And so there are a number of really interesting recommendations here, and we're going to dig into some more of those, in the coming hours.
Scott, given how well you know Congress, you started this by mentioning Susan Collins. Does this report and the details in it put a lot more pressure on Republicans who have quietly kind of looked the other way? They don't align themselves with Trump, but they love to say, I didn't read it, I didn't hear about it, I don't know about it. They can't say that after this. And will this put a lot more pressure on them to actually take action and potentially take action against the former president?
Very hard to say. There are still a number of Donald Trump loyalists on Capitol Hill. In fact, the folks who Kevin McCarthy originally appointed to the January 6th committee came and who ultimately did not serve because they withdrew those, McCarthy withdrew those picks in protest. Those individuals this week came out with their own January 6th report, mostly focusing on flaws in Capitol security, in some of the intelligence, not focused at all on Donald Trump and his efforts to overturn the election and to direct that angry mob towards the Capitol, but focus more on the law enforcement. Of course, it was the law enforcement individuals, the police officers that we see every day on Capitol Hill who were battling and protecting the front lines of the Capitol and in some cases giving their lives. And for the folks of us who were in the Capitol that day, we, of course, are very grateful to those officers, both from Metro PD and from the Capitol Police Department and other agencies who were doing their best to protect the Capitol and to get lawmakers and members of the press and House and Senate staff to safety as that mob descended on the Capitol. So a very different perspective, if you will, from the January 6th committee taking a look at this event, and then also this separate Republican report getting much less attention, of course, in a much smaller and shorter report, but that one focused mostly on some of the security flaws in the run-up to January 6th and on that day itself.